unbelievable. I mean, that's just what it is. I want you to see all this. Oh, can I? Oh, look at how cute that is. The little bear has a crown. That's so cute. That's actually the perfect size for him. It's too small for my big ass head, but it fits him perfectly. So that works for me. Okay, so part one is just gotta talk about making an altar on a budget, because that is something that I said I was gonna do this week. And I do actually want to have this conversation because I have a lot of thoughts, right? So number one is, I mean, this is gonna be pretty obvious, but if you have a dollar store, that is your friend. You would be amazed how many things you can get that are like for your altar at the dollar store. Like, you truly would be amazed. Like, one of my favorite things that the dollar store has are these like plain votive candles. This one I got in black for my secondary deity, but my primary deity, I do have a blue one. My cat knocked it over, unfortunately, but I do have a blue one of these. You can get those year round at like Dollar Tree if you're in the US. I don't know about other places, but I know if you're in the US, you can get these for like $1 at the Dollar Tree. I think black is usually like a Halloween exclusive. So if you have a need for black, get them during Halloween, get a couple. They are going to last you like a very long time. Like, these are pretty large. You know what I mean? I think these are like probably 12-inch candle. I don't know. But yeah, the dollar store is definitely your friend when it comes to things like that. Because, you know, like I said, you can really get, and I mean, you can get a lot of stuff there. So one of the other things actually that I got from the dollar store, coincidentally, I think this is from the dollar store at one point. And this is just a little vase, you know, obviously deity Lucifer. Dark flowers, roses especially, are pretty symbolic with Lucifer. So you can have like just a nice little vase. I probably would paint this pink, or it's already pink. I would probably paint this blue if I had to do it over. You can probably get, like, for relatively cheap, obviously not from the dollar store, I wouldn't recommend, but like, you can get a fairly big bottle of Liquitex gesso for like pretty cheap. Change the color of this, and then get one of my favorites. Where did it go? I just had this so that I would be prepared, and of course now I can't find my stuff. One of my absolute favorites, in terms of affordable paint, and I'm sure if you know anything about DIY, you know about this, Apple Barrel. I think from, I want to say if you go to like Walmart, you can probably get these for like less than $1, like 75 to 50 cents. So like, Apple Barrel is absolutely your friend when it comes to like cheap paints. And the great thing is, so like, you know, when I'm making stuff for my altar, I personally like DIY. I personally like to make art. You know, I make like a lot of art pieces. So like, when I'm doing an acrylic pour as like a art piece to my deity, you can use like Apple Barrel paints and then a little bit of water. What I have done is, when I finish off these water bottles, I will boil water. You can boil it on the stove, and then put that into old water bottles that you've washed out. And then that is water that is, what do they call that? There's like a term for it. It's not deionized. It's not, I can't think of what the word is when it's boiled water, but you let it cool down, you pour it into like reusable plastic cups. And the reason for that is because obviously tap water probably has like more bacteria, but it also has sediment. So if you boil off that sediment, it's going to be better, and it's not going to have a risk of like rotting the paint, basically, is what people have told me. Now, I will say this. on that subject, you can also get, very affordably, for like $7, you can get a 16-ounce thing of Mod Podge. So every piece that you finish in Mod Podge. I am telling you, it's going to save your pieces. It's going to save you time. Now, some people will tell you got to get like archival quality finishes. I mean, if you're sending them to people, sure. If you're selling them, sure, you can get archival quality. But if it's just for you, and you're just doing like artwork for you and your deity, like there's nothing wrong with Mod Podge if you have to go affordable. I know some people also like to finish their work in resin. I don't know how I feel about resin personally, but like that is an option too. Let's see, where is my, I have an art piece that I just did that I finished off. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is an art piece that I made on a canvas, and you see it's very like morning star, and I finished this with Mod Podge, so it's nice, and like you can tell it was made in oil pastel, so like that is gonna get all over your hand otherwise, but because I finished it in Mod Podge, it is nice and like just nice and finished, and it looks nice, and it's going to be perfect. And again, it doesn't have to be archival quality, but this allows you to decorate your altar space. If you don't have like money for a big, thing like this, you can just have things that you've made that are specifically for your deity as like a sort of artistic offering is what is the word I'm looking for. Because, offerings can be sort of like I don't want to say the most challenging, but they can be challenging, especially when you're new to the space. I think offerings can be a little bit challenging, figuring out what you want to do, what works. And again, that very much is between you and your deity. That's a very like personal thing. I am not about to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't do as an offering. Like I said, for me, art is always great. If you can make music, if you can do poetry, that's always something great too. Personally, I know my strengths. Making art is one of my strengths, and I enjoy it a lot. One thing I did was a DIY project. Now, I have to fix this, so don't judge me. But I DIY'd, I took an old jacket that I had that was like a denim jacket, and I painted it. Oh, you can't even see it. Damn it to hell. Okay. Oh, here we go. So I painted it, and then I put on, see, it says Lucifer right here. I don't know if you can see that. And then it's got it's got that kind of painting over there, but it's like smaller in a little heart. And I tried to do like a rainbow sort of like, I don't know what you'd call this. Oh, here we go. This looks really nice, but it's very crunchy. You can see it's very stiff and crunchy because I used Color Shot because it's a very dark, naturally very dark jacket. It's like almost black. And I thought I was going to be cool and paint it all colorful. It's a nightmare. So that is like, don't recommend. I do not recommend using Color Shot. And of course, Tulip is like, oh, once you use it, it's a professional product, so it's never coming out. I'm like, great, thank you. Appreciate that. So I'm going to try, and I mean, if you have some suggestions for how to get that out, please let me know. But I'm going to try the like Murphy's wood oil, which people recommend for getting paint out of brushes. And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to just use acetone because I've used acetone to get the original screen printing off. So I kind of figure surely acetone can get off the like paint too, hopefully. I guess we'll find out if that works. I'll update you because otherwise I'm going to have to remake that jacket, which is fine because it was like an old jacket that I didn't really, I wanted to keep it because it was like I spent money on it, but it was like an old piece of fandom merch that I was trying to, repurpose because it's like you spend money on this shit, so you might as well repurpose it. I just think it's just an unfortunate coincidence that it just didn't work out. And it's, you know, I should have known before using the fucking color shot. I don't know what I was thinking, because it's basically fucking spray paint that I put on there. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this eye, but we're just gonna go. So those are my recommendations for like candles, making artwork, you know, like I said, very, very simple things. And then as far as like, you know, I love incense. I'm very addicted to incense. Hem is a pretty nice brand that's fairly affordable as like an incense. So I got like the frankincense and myrrh. But if you really want to go all out, and in my opinion, the best is the wildberry incense. You can usually get these at like most crystal shops for like $1 an incense. My favorite scent is called India Moon. It's very woody. You know what it reminds me of for some reason? I really can't explain this at all, but if you know, you know. India Moon, when it's burning, not when it's just the like raw stick, but when it's burning, smells kind of like the way Disneyland smells. And I don't know what it is, that just is very enjoyable to me. So, I mean, if that's something you like and you want the smell of, then by all means buy that. Like I said, I think I spent like $20 to get 100, but you can definitely spend a lot less and get less. From the India Moon website or from your local crystal shop, what have you. I feel like most places, like I live in Texas and we have a crystal shop, so I feel like most places probably have a crystal shop somewhere, in which case you can absolutely find this and bring it home and enjoy it. So that's my 2 cents about incense. You can actually find, surprisingly, I know people talk shit about Walmart. I've actually found like incense that is $1 at Walmart that's pretty nice. I will say incense at the dollar store I would not recommend, but funny enough, incense at Walmart that is $1 is pretty good. I guess it depends on the scent. Like obviously, again, rose is kind of a big scent with Lucifer personally. So for me, I actually really like the scent of rose, so that works out. So I'm really partial to rose as like a scent for incense. However, I think you can like really just truly get anything and you'd be fine. As long as it's like a stronger scent. Some places, now this is me personally, some places have, like dragon's blood is one of my other favorite scents. Some places have very weird dragon's blood scents. I don't know what it is. Dragon's blood is not a universal scent, I have found. And some places do it very, very good, and some places do it just not great. And I don't know what it is. It just seems like it's not a universal scent whatsoever. And so it is something that you have to be careful where you get your dragon's blood from, because some places it's just really, really gross smelling and I don't care for it. I don't know what it is. I have no idea why certain dragon's blood just doesn't smell good. So that's just my own 2 cents. You know, be careful where you get your dragon's blood from, because they don't always smell good. I think Wildberry's dragon's blood is pretty okay. This actually looks like a peacock look. I'm not mad at that. Wildberry's dragon's blood is pretty good, but there's definitely places that really just don't have great dragon's blood for some reason. So, you know, just a word of caution if you are someone who is partial to that sort of thing, because it can be tricky to find what you're looking for. So just, you know, a note there. But again, like I said, you know, I'm obviously someone who like, I'm not afraid to spend a lot of money on things. Shocker of shockers. But if you are creating like on a budget, I think, you know, starting from scratch with an altar, it's not as hard as you'd think it would be. Like, I think it can be intimidating, to create an altar on a budget, but it's not actually all that difficult if you're really determined and you really need to like do it on a budget. Like, you know, if you need an incense burner, you can really get those for $1. Like, incense burners do not cost that much money. You know, again, incense you can buy for relatively cheap. Like, I've definitely grown my... Okay, it just has like gold on it. I've definitely grown my collection for my altar over the years, and I would definitely recommend, like, start small. Get the things that you really feel are important, and then like grow your altar from there, because you can always add to it. I mean, that's the thing for me, is like, I view my altar as like something that can always grow. And I'm always looking for things that I think I would want to add to it later on down the line, things that I think are interesting. You know, it's not something that has to be like, oh, you build it once and then it's done. I will say I kind of eventually will want to make a travel one, but that'll be a different video probably. I don't think anything that I have in it would change per se. It just would have to be smaller and like kept in a certain place to be a travel one. But again, that's kind of like its own thing for me. Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna do my makeup. That really, you know, this is the thing. This is what I was worried about when I had this idea. Because I feel like, you know, making an altar on a budget is actually not a long video as far as like a video concept. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot to it. There's not a lot I can say because, as it turns out, I've kind of said everything that there is to say about the subject. Like, you just have to, you know, go to the dollar store, and that pretty much takes care of most of the things that you could possibly need for an altar. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anything that's so inherently necessary that would be hard to find anywhere. And like, if you want to get stuff that's like representative, because that is a big thing. It's like things that represent your deity or things that like make you think of them. I've bought fake roses from the dollar store to like have on my altar so that I can have, you know, again, the rose representation. I could buy, and I've thought about buying sunflowers, because, you know, Lucifer stands for the morning star. So I've thought about doing sunflowers as like a, you know, here, what's the matter? I've thought about doing sunflowers because, you know, morning, sunlight, sunflowers. But I don't know, for some reason I just never have, which is kind of funny. But like, you know, just little things, I feel like pretty straightforward. I don't think there's necessarily anything like that I have to say that's so like, you know, difficult or whatever. Oh, I can't believe I recorded and then never put out my freaking, goth meditation. Like, I recorded it last week and then completely forgot about it because that is very on brand for me. I've honestly had like, you know, guys, I've had a lot on my mind lately, right? Because even though this video is supposed to be about me talking about, you know, building an altar on the cheap or on the affordable, I've just really been frustrated because I've been watching a lot of this YouTuber and TikToker who I greatly enjoy, mind you. But, you know, she does a lot of content of like, you know, kind of, I guess, I don't want to say debating with Christians about what the Bible does or doesn't say, but like certainly talking about like, you know, here's what the Bible actually says about XYZ. And, you know, it doesn't actually say what everyone argues that it says and all of this stuff. And, you know, I just,
Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
I think it's very interesting because what I'm witnessing is that the goalpost has literally been changing. You know, I went to Catholic school, and one of my mother's favorite things to say is that I've always known the Bible better than a lot of people who call themselves Christians, because we had to study it kind of backwards and forwards in school. And it would be great to say that using actual biblical passages as talking points would be enough to get people to shut up when they're saying stupid shit. But as it turns out, they've just moved the goalpost and decided that they no longer care. And I don't think they ever cared, but now they're just kind of open about it. Like, I have heard people say, like, I can't even remember who said it, but there was like this post where someone was talking about, they were using, you know, it was like a priest talking about, you know, stuff that Jesus said, and a person came up to them afterwards and was like, where are you getting those liberal talking points? And the priest is like, literally, Jesus, what the fuck are you talking about? And they're like, well, that no longer works. That's weakness. So like, the people who will say about gay marriage and abortion and all this, it's biblical literalism, also will argue that if Jesus said it and it sounds too liberal and too woke, that doesn't count and that doesn't work and that's weakness. So like, the goalpost is just constantly changing. And my thing is this: as much as I respect, you know, the hustle of making your brand, debunking kind of the bullshit, as much as I respect that, as much as I personally love that, and I enjoy seeing it, I think it comes down to the point that for me, I just think arguing with people about their book and what it does or doesn't say, like, I'm not fighting on your level anymore, is what it is. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I don't believe in your shit, so I should not be bound to your book, right? Like, we do have, I say this a lot, we have freedom of religion and freedom from religion. So you don't have to be bound by my beliefs. I don't have to be bound by your beliefs. So as far as I'm concerned, like, I'm not going to argue with you about what the Bible does or doesn't say about jack shit, because at the end of the day, that has no effect on me, and that should have no effect on the law. You know what I mean? The law is the law, regardless of whether or not the Bible says anything about it, as far as I'm concerned. So like, no, I'm not going to continue to engage in these arguments about, you know, what the Bible says about, you know, you, me, or Kathy Lee. Like, I don't care. I don't care what it says. I'm not going to have the conversation. Like, I'm so tired of being, you know, constantly having to indulge these conversations. And the problem is, you know, we've indulged it so much. We have simultaneously, we have allowed Christians to run this country into the ground, make it a Christo-fascist state, but then continue to this day, with everything they've got going on, continue to play the victim. Like, at a certain point, it's so beyond parody. You're still acting like somehow you are the most oppressed group. And, you know, like, what do you do when you have nothing left to be oppressed by? You know what I mean? You, like, you know, Mark Maron has said, like, you've already made queer people afraid for their life. You're already, you know, making all of this shit illegal. You're already deporting people. You already have everything that you could possibly want. At what point is it enough? At what point do you just say, hey, we won the game, now what? What are we going to be oppressed by now? How are you still going to say there's a war on Christmas, or that there's a war on traditional families? Bitch, you're the traditional family. You've always been the traditional family. There's never been a war on it. You just had to see other people's families, and now you don't anymore, because you get to make the rules and you are in charge and people are capitulating to you. regardless of whether or not they need to, they are capitulating in advance. So, like, there is no war, but if there had been, you won it. So how are you still the victim? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's so tired. It's so fucking tired. Like, at a certain point, it's just like, you were mad because you had to acknowledge that other people existed. And now, oops, oh shit. Now you get to set the rules and say you don't have to acknowledge this anymore. You do not have to acknowledge that other people exist any longer. So you can't say that you're the victim anymore because you no longer have to acknowledge that other people exist. You no longer have to acknowledge the humanity of anyone else. And you really never did have to. No one was holding a gun to your head as much as people act like they were. So, like, at what point do you just say, hey, we won everything? Like, why are we still bitching? Why are you never fucking happy? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't get it. And it's so frustrating to me because it's like, when are you going to be happy? When is enough going to be enough? I mean, obviously never, but it's just like, how can you possibly sit there and say that you are so oppressed when you have fucking everything? You know what I mean? It's just so wild. Like, okay, I don't get it. And so it's exhausting. And that's why I'm like, I'm not gonna argue with people who want to play these games and act like they're the fucking, most oppressed person on earth because they're a Christian who has to acknowledge that other people exist and other holidays besides Christmas exist. I mean, that's what it boils down to, right? People got mad because you weren't wishing them a Merry Christmas and they decided to destroy the government over it. And I mean, that's an oversimplification, of course. Like, this has been going on forever. It's so much more complicated than that. But, like, it's hard not to feel like, at the end of the day, that's, like, a big portion of it, right? You had to acknowledge that other people besides you existed and that not everyone celebrates Christmas and that there are other holidays in that same time frame. But yeah, sure. I can't. It's so exhausting. It's so frustrating. And that's why I'm just not willing to do it. I'm not willing to play the game and have the argument with you of like, oh, what does the Bible say on this? The Bible doesn't mean whatever. Like, no, I'm not having the conversation. I don't care what it says or doesn't say. That's not my book. So I don't care what it says. We can argue what the dictionary says about XYZ. We can argue what, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy says. That's a good book. We can argue what fucking Tolkien says about whatever. But I'm not going to argue what the Bible says, because guess what? Yeah, I get it. Tolkien's fiction too. But, like, at least that's well, I've never actually read Lord of the Rings, so I don't know. But at least that's an enjoyable fiction book. You know what I mean? Actually, I'm really partial to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I didn't expect to be, but that ended up being a really good book. I didn't think I was a sci-fi girly, but joke's on me. But yeah, my point is this. Like, I'm tired of having these arguments with people. And I'm tired of being expected to. And it's like, even if that's the funny thing too, right? Even if you know the Bible inside and out, even if you have all the evidence and the quotes, Christians will just find a reason to say, well, you're wrong. Like, if you believe whatever you believe, you can just say whatever you want. Like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? The truth doesn't matter. I think we are kind of living in a post-truth time, sadly, whatever the hell that means. And it's just like, people are going to believe what they're going to believe. So it almost doesn't matter if you have quotes or proof or whatever. There's people accusing this YouTuber of never having been into a church. And it's like, okay, like, that's, first of all, almost scientifically impossible that anyone has not been into a church. I feel like even if you're not religious, you've been into a church, because it's almost fucking unavoidable at this point, but okay. But like, more to the point, I just think it's so funny because it's like, okay, well, you know, they can quote you what the Bible says, they can tell you exactly what all of this is, and you're still going to say that it's wrong. Even if they quote you everything verbatim, you are going to change the goalpost and decide that it's wrong, they're wrong, because it doesn't suit your needs, right? And so at that point, I'm just like, you know what? If you can just decide what any of this means and what it says and all of that, then like, there's no point in arguing with you anymore. There's no point in arguing on your level, because you've clearly lost the fucking plot. You know, once you've decided that you are correct and no one else can ever be correct if they disagree with you, you've lost the plot, and I'm no longer having to have a conversation with you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not interested. I'm just not interested in that. And I will never be interested in that, in having those debates and conversations and arguments. Like, I'm not going to debate you on your level because, oh, God, I thought, where's Little Miss? I like hear her making noises, but I don't see her, which is so funny. But yeah, like, I'm just not having the arguments anymore. So, and I just don't think we should keep, you know, entertaining it. I think people who like genuinely no longer believe that should just not entertain it anymore, because it's clear that the goalpost is just constantly changing. The goalpost is just constantly, you know, being stretched to whatever people want. So like, I'm not gonna argue with you about what your book does or doesn't say. It doesn't affect me. I don't care. We're not basing laws on what it does or doesn't say. That's all. So I'm not going to argue with you on what it does or doesn't say. It is what it is. Is there a pink in this plant cake? There is. Okay, there's two really gorgeous pinks. There's this one, and then this one. I almost am tempted to use this magenta, this OK Bloomer. I love that name. It's so funny. I think it's going to look crazy, which I kind of love. Actually, if I'm honest, I love a crazy, like, magenta blush. Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? That actually doesn't look that crazy. That actually looks pretty tame. But yeah, so I'm just like, you know, I'm just tired of everyone thinking that, you know, we have to argue shit on your, on certain people, you know, we're allowed to argue on certain people's beliefs, but everyone else has to, you just have to fall in line with what they say. And it's like, no. I think my next video is going to be my video talking about, since there's going to be a new episode of Hell of a Boss by the time my new episode comes out, I think I'll do a review or a ranking of the sins and some of the Goetic demons. Now, granted, I only have my own opinions. I don't know every demon, certainly not personally. And obviously there's ones who aren't named, because the Ars Goetia is freaking huge. I think that's another thing. They really leave themselves open to like have anyone show up, because the Ars Goetia is huge and it's a huge list. So it would be very interesting to see where they go with it in the future, because they really can do anything, you know what I mean? But I am certainly not going to, I'm only going to review the ones we've seen. If there's a new one added to the list with this new episode coming out, I think tomorrow, actually. Well, no, it'll be today when this goes up. I think it comes out on the 10th. So when this goes up, there will be a new episode. But I won't have had time to review it, so obviously it's not gonna... I don't really do reviews anymore, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But I want to at least, if there's any new Goetic demon that's mentioned, I will add them to my list. But so far I just have the ones that I was able to find on the wiki because I couldn't remember everyone who was listed. For some reason I couldn't remember Visago's name. And actually I couldn't remember Payman. I forgot about Beelzebub. So, you know, lots of people that I just forgot about for some reason. So I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna do a ranking for my next video, which will be fun. I love ranking videos. Actually, you know, I gotta say, I love a video that is just kind of fun. I don't want to always rant and vent. I certainly have enough to say to rant pretty much every video, but I don't want to rant every video. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to just, like, have fun and talk about fun shit. I don't want to have to just talk about how much, you know, Christianity pissed me off this week. That's not fun for me. That's not, like, I have to live it. I don't want to have to fucking talk about it too. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. Oh, this is really bringing out the green in my eyes. I feel like my eyes change color depending on what makeup I'm wearing. And this is really making my eyes look so green. Which is probably because there's, like, a lot of blue in this. Because, interestingly enough, I feel like blue brings out the green in my eyes and green brings out the blue in my eyes. I don't know why. And then brown brings out like a hazel. My eyes definitely change color. So I actually really love this makeup look. Living. Sliving, even, one might say. I love this. My little Baphomet. Isn't he so cute? Now, mind you, I mean, people argue whether or not Baphomet is like a representation of Lucifer / Satan or his own thing. There's like a lot of debate on the Baphomet front. I just think he's cute. And I think he kind of gives the vibes that I want. So, can you... Oh, you can't see him behind the glue. There he is. Anyway, yeah, so I think really just like buy stuff from... I guess my total thing is buy stuff from the dollar store as like a way to affordably build your altar, but also build it slowly if you have like bigger pieces that you want to buy. Because there are obviously going to be things that you're going to want to buy that are less affordable, in which case build those slowly. But like for example, right, you can get... I cut this out because I don't have use for big pieces of canvas right now. But if you want like canvas to paint or to make like the acrylic pour things that I make, or to do, like I said, this is oil pastels. If you want like canvas, the dollar store does sell very affordable canvases. Michael's has canvas that's like always on sale. I wish this was not as floppy as it is, but you know, that's what happens when you take off the the backing. But like Michael's has canvas all the time, so like there's a lot of places you can get canvas that's really affordable that you don't have to like spend an arm and a leg. So that is a recommendation as well, to like make your own art. But as I said, I think just buying stuff slowly but surely and DIYing where you can. I'm really partial to like glitter a lot of times, especially like obviously gold is a big thing. Again, morning star. So sometimes like just to give it a little extra oomph, if I buy like a little candle like this, I am going to just put a little glitter in there just to give it a little like extra oomph. You know what I mean? Just a little extra kind of vibe. Also, people recommend this all the time. If you want to like connect with your deity, one thing you can do that's very affordable is that you can take your breakfast with them, take your tea with them. You can eat it at your altar, but you can also be thinking of them and kind of vibing with them. I think that's a great way. I know people talk a lot. I've seen on Tumblr, making a, making like a digital like offering to your deity. So that's something you can do. I've heard like having a separate alternate account just for your deity posting. Like I said, you can make like poetry and songs and videos. So there's a lot of stuff you can do that's like specifically for your deity that doesn't necessarily cost money. Like at this point in the game, YouTube really doesn't cost me money because I've bought all the equipment. It costs money in the sense that like time and effort, and I'm putting in my talents and my skills and all of that. But like the equipment at this point is all stuff that I have, so I don't have to go out and buy that. So like if you want to make videos, like there are plenty of people on TikTok who talk about their deities. There's witchtok, there is lucifer talk, there's Satan talk, I'm sure, demonolatry talk, whatever. So that does exist. There are kind of other options and alternatives out there that if you already have a phone, you can kind of just make those videos if you wish, talking about your own experience and sort of like how you worship and what you do. Sometimes I feel like I want like a mix of like privacy, but also like talking about things. Does that make sense? It's not necessarily something that I'm like super secretive about, but I do think some people are a little too open, and I'm like, some things I just feel like should be between you and your deity. Personally, for me. But again, I also believe that everyone has their own relationship with the same deity. So there are some people that I've seen, like I follow some, I mean, I'm still on my social media cleanse, kind of, but I do follow some accounts on like Tumblr that talk specifically about their relationship with their deity. And some people in their asks have been like, oh, you're wrong, like how you worship is stupid and you're wrong about it, and your relationship with Lucifer is dumb or whatever. I'm kind of the mind that like your relationship is your relationship and that has nothing to do with me. I could not fathom saying to someone like, your relationship is stupid and not real and I do it the correct way, which was basically what that person was getting at. Like, why are we gatekeeping how you worship? Like, especially now, like, just let people do what they want. If you want to be a Wiccan who is on your own, fine. If you want to have a coven, fine. I actually, what's funny? Apparently, one of the only Luciferian churches exists here in Texas. So kind of want to look that up. I'm almost 100% certain that it's probably in Dallas because everything happens in Dallas for some reason, or it's in Austin. Kind of ate that. But I've done looks that were definitely inspired by my deity or either of my deities. So, it sounds like I'm saying daddy in like a weird accent, my deity. Oh my God. I can't. I'm just gonna end there because that's fucking, you can't top that. I mean, you can top this, but that's a whole other thing. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay devilish and see you next Wednesday. Why am I talking like that? Girl, I don't even know. I don't even know what I am up to or what I am about. I have a headache because it's so hot and this headband is so tight. Okay, bye.